What's going on? It's Mr. Billy. It's loud as hell in here, but you should be listening to Card Subject to Change.
Welcome back to the show.
Welcome back to the show. You know, the custody. God, I can't believe we're saying this. I mean, what do you drop that suitcase with as a big chicken nugget? If you want to go ahead and make it right for Dominic, since he likes chicken nuggets or whatever. He has got to be the most
briefcase full of chicken fingers.
Yeah, there you go.
And then that's when I found ECW, and RVD changed my life. I actually saw a clip of the Van Terminator, and I remember the hype going into, I think it was like 2000. I remember the hype going into a heat wave that RVD created this new move, and it did not disappoint. It was amazing. And the Van Terminator alone was the reason why I actually pursued professional wrestling.
Just, it blows my mind. And I'm tugging on my mom's pants and stuff. And I'm like, Mom. And she's like, yeah, what? And I go, I want to do that. And I'm pointing at the TV. Well, she looks and she goes, oh, you want to be like Macho Man and wear the cool sunglasses and say, oh, yeah, and do the elbow drop? And I go, no, I want to be the guy throwing snakes at people.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I don't want to go through a table.
No, and we appreciate Low Pies Pizza and Durham Remodeling and Ryan Allison Tattoo. And Jared Zook, you can protect all of us anytime, baby. Country Financial for the win.
And now, your hosts of the Card Subject to Change podcast, the For Frequency's Sake Tag Team Champions of the World, the Wizard CZ, and Never Wrong Nick Gold.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting edition of the Card Subject to Change podcast, the podcast by the fan, for the fan. I am your host, Never Wrong, Nick Bold. Joining me is my co-host, the co-champs of the For Frequency's Sake Network. We are the tag team champions of the network. We're here to defend our titles once again and do it proudly. He is my tag team partner, the Wizard CZ. Wiz, how you doing?
Man, I am tired, but I'm doing as good as can be. You and I both had an extremely long night last night. Yours a little longer than mine. I pulled up to the house about 1:15, and you had about an hour and a half in your drive home.
Yep.
But
we're not young anymore. My voice is feeling it today. We're both tired, but I think we can both agree we're coming off what they call the wrestling high, and it's a very real thing. If you're a wrestling fan out there, that wrestling high. I know I'm coming off of it today. I know CZ's coming off it after his night last night. We're plenty to talk about here. Please bear with us as my voice makes a recovery or is trying to from getting lost last night.
Yeah, that was you had an epic night because you went to one of the big dogs. You were in Chicago to see AEW's All Out, which looks like a fantastic show. I have not looked at anything because I want to hear it from you.
Okay, that's cool, man. That's cool. I appreciate it.
I, of course, was in Ottumwa, Iowa for Bridge City Slam 6 and Fan Fest. Very, very exciting. Before we go into our nights, I think we need to talk a little bit and give a nod to the promotion that's right in our backyard, because a couple of big things happened at SCW Pro last night. Neither one of us were able to attend because of these other shows that we were drawn to, but we will be back at an SCW Pro venue here in the near future. But no, the QC Cup, John Bonhart did lose to Ripped Studwell. So that was kudos to Ripped, a friend of the podcast there, for gaining the QC Cup. But John Bonhart's night wasn't over. Cornboy, the current Iowa champion in SCW Pro, had a match where he retained his title, and John Bonhart came out and attacked him after the match. So we know that he's got his eyes. He may have lost the cup, but he's got his eyes on that Iowa championship next. The big highlight, though, another friend of the podcast, Mr. Eric Esnight, was in a battle with the Devil Dog, Dustin Mosley, for the SCW Pro Championship. And the big surprise, not the fact that Eric Esnight walked away with the title, but what happened to cause him to walk away with the title. Shane Hollister, the Shug, has been drinking the Kool-Aid and is now officially 100% chosen.
The results of that really alarmed me. I'm not sure about the dates and stuff, but that's got to be it's got to be close to a year that the Devil Dog held that title. He won it last year, I believe, at anniversary, the 20th anniversary show last year from JT Energy, and was it Joe Asa in a triple threat match. This year he drops it to Eric Esnight. So congratulations to Devil Dog for holding that title, that SCW Pro title, for nearly a year, representing the company well. I know we both love talking to the Devil Dog. We've had him on the show numerous times. Props to him with a great run, but congratulations to Eric Esnight, who's been on this show numerous times on this show. Great guy. And what he's done with his character and this faction that he's built has paid in spades to him as he becomes the new SCW Pro champion last night at their anniversary show.
And if there was one thing that I was disappointed in not going to SCW, that was it right there, because I would have loved to see the coronation of Eric Esnight, the culmination of this drive to get that championship. But I digress. We had other things going on. Some would say bigger, some would say equal value, but really excited to talk about our weekends here. There was so much wrestling going on this weekend. It's hard to pick where you want to go, who you want to see, what you want to do. SCW Pro, all out in Chicago. I believe it was Saturday Night Nitro at the Mall of America for First Wrestling last night. Bridge City Slam, where I was. Lots of Midwest wrestling going on all over the place, and just a great time to be a wrestling fan for sure.
Well, CZ, it's a great problem to have. How many times we said, man, I wish there was some wrestling going on tonight. There was plenty of it last night. You just had to make a choice. And just in the Midwest alone, there was so much wrestling going on last night. Saturday Night Nitro in Minneapolis, Bridge City Slam in Ottumwa, all out in Chicago, SCW Pro right here in our backyard. So whatever tickled your fancy as a wrestling fan this past Saturday night as we record here on Sunday evening. What a time it is to be a wrestling fan. So many options, so many good options out there. It's great. It's a great time to be a wrestling fan. We're glad to have this podcast to talk about our experiences at these said shows, and we're glad that you're tuned in here. This is the Card Subject to Change podcast by the fan for the fan. I'm never wrong, Nick Bull. He's the Wizard CZ, and I'm looking forward to hearing about your night in Ottumwa as well.
And I think I'll start. There was a great fan fest before the show kicked off. Lots of legends, lots of people who are still in their prime, and I'll start just by reintroducing us, Nick, in a style of someone that I met. Now, I didn't bring any pictures in the studio, but my name is CZ, and I am a certified whiz and a bona fide stud, and you can't teach that. And this right here, this is Nick Bull, and he is never wrong, and you can't teach that. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. My voice is suffering, man, but I'm doing fine. I sound like a truck hit me, but don't get me wrong. I feel like $1 million, man. After this weekend, after everything that happened, being able to see a wrestling show, hang with wrestling friends that I haven't seen for quite some time. I had a great weekend. I feel like $1 million right now. I don't sound like it, but I feel like $1 million.
And I'll tell you, when I walked into some 2.5 hour drive, which was so worth it. Walked into that venue for Bridge City, and it is just a gorgeous building all around. But where they have the wrestling set up, a lot of room, a lot of space. They had 800 people to 800 tickets. First person I see when I walk in the door, like I just reintroduced ourselves, was the real one, formerly known as Enzo Amore. I got a picture with him, got an autograph. Really nice, down to earth dude. But I will tell you, no one was really that talkative there. I think the person who spent the most time with the fans was someone I kind of regret not getting in line for, but he also had the longest line because he was taking his time with the people, and that is the Boogeyman. Very cool to see him all in his get-up, live and in person. We'll talk about him a little later. I do want to talk about his moment of the night there, but we'll get to that a little later on.
You're not going to try and sell me on eating worms, and that eating worms is a good thing, are you?
No.
Okay, good. I wasn't going to eat them. Not today.
Well, they might help your throat.
Well, if it helps the throat, sure.
a little worm tea for you.
Oh man, it might help, but yeah, no worms, please.
But yeah, it was the Fan Fest was a lot of fun. The highlight for me, definitely meeting one of my wrestling heroes, someone I've loved for a long time, particularly because of a promo that we've talked about on the show in our previous episodes and that I quote often. The numbers don't lie, and I'm just going to bring this up here. That right there is Buff Bagwell, but more importantly, Scott Steiner and the poster he is signing. I got from our friend Eric Hodson, who was at Planet FunkCon here in the Quad Cities last was it July, Nick, or was it June?
It was last summer, yes.
Over the summer last year,
Yep.
That is the Steiner math brought into a comic book cover style that he is signing. And if you want to see the actual poster, I have posted pictures on Facebook, but was very excited. Was very honored to meet Scott Steiner. I did not wear the chainmail headdress. I couldn't get one in time.
My next question. We have got to make that happen. You've got to get a chainmail headdress. You've got to wear it during this podcast. I mean, you of all people, the big Scott Steiner mark you are, and I mean that in friendly terms, the big Scott Steiner mark that you are. You got to have the chainmail headdress, man. That is awesome.
What about you? Tell me about the start of your night. I know you were there for the whole thing. It had to be a long night. I know Tony Khan is notorious for his marathon pay-per-views, but you had the 0 hour with it, which had a few matches. You had the main card. Talk about arriving to the Now Arena and what it was like being where you were in the arena.
Sure. Got to the Now Arena shortly after they opened the parking lots. Parking lots opened at 3. I think I rolled in about 3:15. Just a short 2.5 hour drive. Any chance you get to go to Hoffman Estates and Now Arena, I can't encourage it anymore. It's real easy to get to. It's in a good neighborhood. Easy in and out. I love the size of the arena. It's just perfect for the show that we were going to. The big thing for me before the show was kind of the bigger deal tonight for me. The show was the actual tailgate, was actually hanging out with wrestling fans and friends, which we did in the parking lot. We had, you remember Chris Owens, who
Yes.
you met in Waterloo. He brought a grill, and a bunch of us grilled out people that you knew were there. Shout outs to Chris Owens, Matty Montcalm, Don and Tom, the Fabulous Feldman brothers. That Mark, Jeremy. He was there. Our friend Kyle Tobias was there. Our friend, longtime friend from Channel 6 back in the day, Ryan Cerny, was there. So a bunch of us got together, grilled out, did our thing in the parking lot. This is the 3rd out of 4 years that we've done this all-out trip, and I can't encourage it enough. It's such an easy drive. I mean, I know it proved to be a late night, but 2.5 hours to Chicago in and out. Traffic wasn't bad at all. It was good. And, you're there and you're like, yeah, you're in the moment. you want to hang out and tailgate in the parking lot, what time do you want to go in for the pre-show? Because the 0 hour standard for AEW shows, the 0 hour they do before their show. And I think a bunch of matches got added the night before. I'll be honest with you, I feel like a bad wrestling host here, but I really didn't know the matches on the 0 hour before I got there. So kind of made our way into the arena around 6:15, 6:30.
Okay.
And we were able to, we had a suite. And in the past, we had a suite. It was on the upper level, but now our suite was on the lower level. So we were able to get into our suite, get acclimated to our seats and whatnot. And the suite we had this year was a little smaller, but the view was so much better. A little lower, a little more level with the ring, with the aisle coming at us. So the hard TV cam side was to our left.
Let me while you're talking, I'm gonna throw this up here.
Absolutely. Yep, there I am. On my left there, you're looking at right, is my oldest son, Landon. And that's our friend, his friend and my friend, that Mark, Jeremy. He was at the show. Yeah, that's where we sat. We had great seats. Everything was coming at us. In arena production, excellent stuff. I mean, crowd very much into the show. Chants, pops, boo. I mean, the crowd was invested in the show, as you can tell by my voice. And I think everybody walked away very happy with the product that AEW put out there, very happy with the pay-per-view that they put on. I think you're on mute, CZ.
I think you're right.
I think you're on mute. Hey, I know I'm not a lot of things, but I know I'm right here because I'm like, I can't hear you.
Well, hey, look at the name underneath you here. You're never wrong.
I looked around. I'm like, oh my god, I can't hear him. What were you saying there, bud?
No, I was just saying it sounded like everything I heard about the show was fantastic. It looked like it was a good card. There were some matches that definitely sounded interesting, and I'm sure we'll talk about those. I don't want to talk about matches quite yet. We're going to do that. Sure. We're going to take a break here in a minute here, talk about that on the other side of the break. But yeah, here I am on mute and hyping up the AEW show. I can't hype up this whole weekend any more than I already have. It's been fantastic. I'll tell you what really. As we get into the show at Bridge City in Ottumwa, what really stood out to me, the highlights were the celebrities who were there. I'll talk about a couple of them later on because there were specific moments. I'm going to show one here on the other side of the break. But Jake the Snake came out with Demolition. They thanked the crowd. They were very humble and very happy to be there and excited. I did get a picture with both of them. I was happy about that.
Jealous.
Very
I
know
jealous.
You are. But it was really good. And then of course the Powers of Pain. They had a match against the tag team champions, the champions of the century, the faction known as the Champions of the Century. In this instance, it was Donnie Pepper Cricket and the Iceman defending the tag titles. And as you would expect, there were some shenanigans. The Powers of Pain, the Warlord and the Barbarian, won due to a disqualification. So the titles did not change hands. And the champions refused to give them 5 more minutes.
Well, I mean, would you give 5 more minutes to the Warlord and the Barbarian? Yes, that's the Powers of Pain that CZ's talking about. That Powers of Pain, the Warlord, the Barbarian. They still look greater after all these years. And I thought it was awesome, the build to Bridge City Slam, that they were announced for a match. I mean, that is so cool that they're still around. They're doing their thing. They're doing the signings. They're doing the autographs. They're doing the pictures, and that they're still active, and they were able to be a part of this event. That piqued my interest to have those guys be able to step in the ring, man. You were able to see him in there in the main event of Bridge City Slam yesterday.
And in the main event, we'll talk about that. But Rory Fox took on another celebrity. I don't know if he's reached legend status. I'll call him a legend because I love him to death. But it was Enzo Amore and Rory Fox for the championship. Before the show started, I walked past Rory Fox, and the gentleman that he is, I think I've told this story before. When I was at an outdoor show in the heat, I had to leave early because I was getting overheated, and he offered to sell me some water out of the kindness of his heart. This time he was trying to get me to buy some of his merch. I said, well, how much for the title? He had the belt on his merch table. I'm like, how much do you want for the title belt? He refused. He was not happy that I asked about the title belt.
Oh, I can't blame him. He's a man of integrity. He's not going to sell that thing. Should have asked him.
Well, he shouldn't have it on his merch table then.
Should have asked him for a title shot, maybe. That might have been the way. That might have been the way to go around that, is to ask for a title shot.
That might have been. That's fair. But yeah, let's take a short break. We'll talk matches when we come back. Before we talk matches, though, we also do have our moment of focus with JT Energy, but we'll look at that on the other side of the break. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
For frequency's sake, has you covered on all things sports. From the squared circle to the hardwood and the gridiron to the speedway, we've got something for everyone. Walk down the aisle with the boys from Card Subject to Change every Sunday as they take a deep dive into everything pro wrestling. Head on over to the hardwood with Doug Green and Watching the W each week for all the news from the WNBA. Want more insight from Pit Row? Check out the Green, White, and Checkered podcast where they give their insight on everything happening on and off the track. Need your gambling fix? We've got you there. Dan Hancock and Gotham Gambling will help you cover the spread with the Golden Ticket Show. Football more your style? Explore the waters of NFL DFS with DFS Deep Dive with Brian Craighead and Jordan Kernan each week. More into the science portion of the game? The Professor John Bush and Dennis Michelson take you into their science lab and dissect your week in the data lab. Need to know who to start last minute? The network's flagship show, For Fantasy's Sake, is here in a pinch. The fellas come to you live every football Sunday from 10 to 11:30 Central with the week's best DFS, gambling, and lineup advice. And wrap up your Sundays with Joe Winkle and Nick Brinks as they come to you live with educated ignorance, looking at all the day's action. Not enough football on Sunday? Not a problem. Kick your feet up at lunch on Monday and slip into the football lounge with Mark and Dan while they look at the week that was in news, notes, and more. For frequency's sake, you know what we mean.
Welcome back to the show.
Welcome back to the show. So glad you're with us here on the Card Subject to Change podcast. Podcast by the fan for the fan. I'm never wrong. Nick Bull. He's the Wizard CZ. And we're just sitting here cutting it up over our great wrestling weekend. CZ took in Bridge City Slam 6 in Ottumwa, Iowa. I was able to take in AEW's All Out up in Chicago over this weekend as well. That's where we were before the break. And then I totally forgot about our friend and co-collaborator here, JT Energy, with his moment of focus. You able to run into him. So I'm sure you've got a JT tale to spin before you play this segment.
Well, I want to play the segment and then I want to tell the tale because it's fun. I've got a nice picture to show because it was one of the highlights, one of the two major highlights of the show itself for me. But let's hear what JT has to say so we can just take a moment to focus.
Welcome to a moment of focus with the feline phenom, JT Energy. And today, the Card Subject to Change podcast, you, my friends, you were talking about two events, AEW All Out and Central Empire Wrestling, Bridge City Slam 6. I'll let CZ talk about what happened at Bridge City Slam, but that brings me to my moment of focus. This week, there's one thing that you should focus on, and that, my friends, is being ready for anything. Because every day, that routine that you're in, it may not change, but the things that you can't control around you, they're coming to get you. And you need to be ready. So take care of yourself, not only mentally but physically, because you never know what's coming to get you. This has been a moment of focus with the feline phenom, JT Energy.
Now you
All
notice I
right.
did that on purpose.
I know I know. But all I can think about now is JT is going Wyatt family now with these jump cuts and edits and these subliminal messages in his moment of focus. And I absolutely love it. He stepped his game up for Bridge City Slam weekend. Great job, JT. That was awesome. And I can't wait to hear your JT Energy story now.
Oh, yeah. This was, like I said, one of the huge highlights of the show itself. JT Energy, of course, competed in a match against Jackson King. JT is Mr. Bridge City Slam. He has the medallion to prove it. But the build going into this match was that Jackson King would become Mr. Bridge City Slam if he beat JT Energy. Spoiler alert, not a spoiler alert. He didn't. JT got the win. Jackson King very frustrated by not coming away with the win, but he got his comeuppance from a very unusual source, because as he's going to vent his frustrations of losing onto JT Energy, what should we hear over the sound system but the boogeyman? I'm coming to get you. And
That
the
would be-
boogeyman made his way to the ring.
And I bet the pop was great.
Oh, it was huge. Boogeyman making his way. Obviously, he's got a bag full of worms that he's shoving in his face. He's throwing them at people as he walks the ramp, which Bridge City, I love the setup. They have the long ramp that's even with the ring. I love it.
A la the glory days of WCW.
Yes, very
Yes.
much so.
Yes, okay.
But yeah, Jackson gets taken out by the boogeyman, and JT Energy had a very fun encounter. I'm going to throw this up here because the look on Mr. Energy's face as he stares eye to eye with the boogeyman it just says it all. It's priceless. And if you're listening off after the fact, on one of our audio platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever, I urge you to go to our YouTube page, pull us up. We are at CSTC Podcast. Give us a subscribe, a like, a share, and you can see this picture as well. Excuse me, but I love it. And of course, our good friend Jared Thumb, he was right there in the curtain when this happened, and his childhood PTSD says he kicked in, and hearing that and being scared about the boogeyman. I don't blame you, Jared. And we got to talk about you in a little bit. But yeah, this was the highlight of they took a moment where they were both crawling around the ring, staring at each other around Jackson King's lifeless body. It was fantastic. It gave me chills, and it was awesome.
I'm gonna assume that was a Clint Dye photograph, was it not?
No,
it was not, because
that
I know
100% from my camera.
That's a great shot, dude. I'd be cutting deals with JT about getting 8x10s made. And getting those signed. That's a great pick, Steve. Props to you. And reason why I said that, Clint Dye, good friend of the show from Tag Team Photography, was at that show, I believe. Was he not?
He was.
He was. Okay. But that dude, that's a great pick. That's an awesome pick you took. I would definitely be getting that printed off and signed by JT if I could, man. That is awesome.
I'm going to do my best to do that. But yeah,
That's
definitely.
Cool. That's cool.
Probably the person with the closer seat than I had was Clint Dye, because I was front row right up there. And it just was awesome. And then they took about 10 minutes to clean the worms out of the ring.
Oh, man. How many worms were used in that production?
Oh, probably 100 at least.
Wow.
Yeah.
I want to know, and I don't want to know, if I ever met the Boogeyman, like, where do you go to get fresh worms? Like, You traveled to this show, I'm assuming. I don't think he's from the Iowa or Illinois region. Where do you get fresh worms? It's not like going to the store and getting fresh produce. Where do you get fresh worms? Like in that amount?
It depends on the area you're in. If you're in a good fishing community, you can always get worms, from my understanding.
That's a lot of worms, man.
Yeah,
that's a lot of worms. But that's so cool. That was a great pick, man. Throw that pick up one more time. I want to see that pick one more time, dude. That is a great pick. JT's face says it all, dude. JT's face says it all.
I was so glad to have captured that, because
that's a great pick, man. Give CZ a round of applause here. That is a great pick. Woo! That is great, dude. Good job. That's good, man. Very good.
So you told me off air, and I got to know what it is. You told me you witnessed what you thought was a 5-star match live.
Will Ospreay versus Pac.
Okay. I had a feeling that's what you were going to say.
I was telling anybody within earshot, I thought this was a matchup of 2 of the top 10 wrestlers in the world. I think that highly of Pac. I'm glad he's getting his flowers. I know at All Out 21, he was hurt. All Out 22, he was on the pre-show. I didn't make All Out last year. And I was so pumped to know that he was on the card this time and that he'd be facing Ospreay after Ospreay beat MJF at All In a couple weeks prior. The winner got a title shot, or Pac got the winner in an international championship title shot. The crowd, as soon as the bell rang after the intros, everybody on their feet, standing ovation. Like everybody felt the same that I did. Like, let's get this thing going. This is magical. So the feeling of magic in the air between these two guys, finally getting to go at it. Similar styles, but not similar style. Pac's a high flyer, but he's also got some mat-based stuff that he does that he's really well. And you know, everybody knows who Will Ospreay is. So I was really excited to see Will Ospreay wrestle for the first time live. That was a big part of this trip for me, and seeing him against Pac, and the match lived up to the hype. Pac is so good in the ring. What stands out to me in this ring, I haven't went back and watched the match yet. I haven't had a chance. Is Pac took 2 hidden blades from Ospreay and looked amazing taking them. Like, made the move look so vicious, so legit, so powerful. And the first time he kicked out of it, the place, I mean, there was some kickouts in this match that were just, they were perfect. It was an absolutely great match. I don't know what Uncle Dave's going to give it, but I like to say I know a 5-star match when I see a 5-star match, and I think that was a 5-star match.
Okay, so I have to ask you. Ospreay has one of the match of the year candidates, whether it's in AEW or WWE, and that is against Bryan Danielson. Did this top it?
I don't think so, but it's going to be another one of his 5-star matches this year. Like, the Danielson match is going to be hard to top. I thought the match with Swerve was excellent. It might top the Swerve match. I don't know, but we're splitting hairs at this point, and it's definitely up there as one of his top 5 matches of the year, maybe top 3 matches of the year for Ospreay, speaking Ospreay's sake. But so awesome to be a part of that arena and that environment. And I think everybody was expecting the best from that match, and we got it.
I'm jealous that you were there live. I wish I could have seen it in person. I haven't seen it at all, but
right. It was, and the crowd was great. Crowd was chanting. Crowd was involved. Like, nobody was sitting on their hands. It wasn't dead. No dead stretches. It was just a fun, entertaining, interactive show. And when you got 2 of the best, I think, top 10 wrestlers in the world, Will Ospreay and Pac, going out there, 3rd match in, CZ. 3rd match in. Here were the first 3 matches of the show. Are you ready?
Hit me.
MJF Garcia. Bucks versus Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta. Ospreay Pac, 3rd match. I mean, when you have those kind of matches at the front of the show, you're like, what's in store for us at the back of the show? And we weren't disappointed.
Now, I know you've got a couple of other pictures that you sent my way. I'm going to throw one up. I want to talk about, this was a great picture. I love this one that you took here.
Okay.
Because it just looks amazing right here, because you've got the money flying up as Okada makes his way to the ring. I love that. Your angle is just perfect. But talk about the 4-way for the Continental. Is it Continental?
No, it was for the Continental Championship. Yes, the belt that Okada is wearing in this picture, if you can see. But yes, I wanted to get a picture of the money coming down as he came in. This match featured Okada, Konosuke Takeshita, Orange Cassidy, and Mark Briscoe. And it didn't disappoint. It really, you got 4 different guys in there, 4 different styles going at it. I'd never seen Okada wrestle before, so that was cool to see that. I think the crowd, definitely gave him his due. There was a moment in this match where we got the stare down in an interaction between Okada and Takeshita, and it's kind of a generational thing. It's kind of like the best of one generation against this up and comer of this new generation of Japan wrestlers. And if they hadn't come to AEW, you got to think this would have been a match or a program that we would have seen in New Japan Pro Wrestling. But here we are seeing it in Chicago, Illinois. And Takeshita, man, I can't say enough good things about him. I think he is so good at what he does. The fact he's got Callis as his mouthpiece, as his manager, is a good thing for him. Orange Cassidy was great. Briscoe was good. But the interaction between Okada and Takeshita was really the part that popped me in this match. All 4 guys put on a great show. Okada was able to retain after a couple rainmakers, but man, it didn't disappoint. It was great. I wish this was a one-on-one match with Okada and Takeshita, but having Orange Cassidy and Mark Briscoe as a part of it. And Briscoe, man, he brought it. Briscoe brings it when the lights are bright. He just absolutely does. And I guess anytime you get to see him's a treat too. Now that Jay's gone, then Mark's out there as the Ring of Honor World Champion. But the 4-way was a lot of fun.
Excellent. I hope I get to watch it, this whole pay-per-view at some point. I don't know if I'm going to be able to or not, but it sounds like it was a lot of fun.
It was, for sure.
Trying to think where I want to go next. I'm going to tell you up front, I'm going to steal the main event slot because of what happened at the end of Bridge City Slam. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
That's fine.
Jordan Grace and I believe Sierra is her name. I'm not familiar with her. They put on a hell of a match. That was very cool to see someone who's been on NXT in recent months, who's been in the Royal Rumble, and who is the TNA Knockout Champion. Very cool to see her in a match. She came out with the win. Excuse me. But it was a very good match. It was hard fought. It was enjoyable. I can't say a bad thing. And Jordan Grace probably had the second longest line at the Fan Fest next to the Boogeyman. There were just so many people there to see her.
She's hot right now. She's all over NXT due to this working relationship with TNA. Like you mentioned, CZ, she's the TNA Knockouts champion. She's been on an incredible run. I think each day passes, she becomes more recognizable by when you mention her name. So a good get by Austin Bayless and company for Bridge City Slam to get Jordan Grace, because I think bigger and better things are on the horizon for her, and she's going to become a household name if she's not already a household name for you wrestling fans out there. I think she's going to become a bigger household name for you out there, and you're going to see more and more of Jordan Grace on your TV each week. If you haven't already, if you're not already a TNA fan and see her every week on TV, yes.
Now, Nick, I know I don't want to put you too much to work with your voice being as it is.
No, you're fine, man. You're fine.
Two more matches I want to hear about from you, and then we'll talk about the ending to Bridge City Slam.
Absolutely.
I'm going to start with, well, the main event was not the title match, correct? The main event was the unsanctioned cage match.
Correct. The unsanctioned cage, the lights out unsanctioned cage match was what went on last. But the championship match, the championship match between Bryan Danielson and Jack Perry had maybe the biggest moment of the night after it, after their match. So they both were main events to me. I'm going
to throw up the picture, the other picture you took, which I think is fantastic
for sure. Hey, I want to use my platform. This is from where I said, I want to use my platform to put over Jack Perry here. Jack Perry stepped up big time. I know I've knocked him in the past, but he stepped up big time in this match, in this role. As you can see in the ring, Danielson's delivering the psycho knee, and you can see it on the Titantron as well. That's kind of how I wanted it framed up and took. Jack Perry was a star in this match. I'm confident to say it's his best match in AEW in his AEW history. Of course, he was in there with one of the all-time greats, but he really relished and lived in the moment. If you know what I mean, as a wrestler, like basked in the heat that he came when he came out. He had nuclear heat. Walked out with the Bucks, who brought him to ringside. Just embraced being the most hated man in the building, and on top of that, was going at it hold for hold, move for move with Bryan Danielson. So I think they did a great job of showcasing Jack Perry. I know it was quite the talk that was the main event of All Out. People were kind of down about it at first, including yours truly. But after last night's match, how Jack Perry rose to the occasion. Bryan was awesome. Bryan kicked the crap out of him. It was amazing. Like, the place was going nuts for him just kicking the crap out of him, because people wanted to see Perry get his ass kicked, and they did. But Perry was still so great in the moment. And I don't know if you know about what happened after the match, but Danielson is able to hit a second psycho knee. Perry sells it like a champ. Props to Perry and Pac for selling the finishers of their opponents like crazy. He is prone in the ring. Danielson is, after getting the 1, 2, 3. The Elite come out and are immediately chased off and startled as one Christian Cage music hits. And we are led to believe before Christian Cage's music hits, Jack Perry's in the ring all alone with Danielson, turns and looks, and there's Kill Switch, a.k.a. Luchasaurus. So Luchasaurus, Kill Switch, and the scapegoat, Jack Perry, have their stare-down moment. That's when Christian's music hits, and everybody's looking around like, oh, my God, Christian's going to cash in. He's going to cash in here. Christian makes his way down to the ring with Nick Wayne and with Mama Wayne, and Kill Switch already in the ring. And before they can get to the ring, they are headed off at the pass by one Jon Moxley.
Ooh.
Moxley stares down Christian at ringside, daring him to get in the ring. Christian's like, okay, steps back and goes back up the entrance ramp. And by this time, the rest of the Blackpool Combat Club, containing of Claudio, Wheeler Yuta, Pac, and Marina Shafir, are in the ring, waiting for Mox to come in to celebrate with Bryan. They help Bryan up. They're all celebrating. And out of nowhere, Claudio Castagnoli turns on Bryan. Bam! Big European uppercut. You've got to see the video. Bryan is staring up at him in despair. From behind, Moxley places a plastic bag over Bryan's head and starts to choke him out.
I did see that, but whoa.
Yes. I'm in the crowd with everyone else The crowd starts chanting, "This is murder." There was severe heat on the Blackpool Combat Club as they turned on Bryan Danielson. The only one who didn't turn was Wheeler Yuta, who was restrained in the corner by Pac, letting this all go down. It was a moment to take in. You've wondered what Jon Moxley's intentions are with these recent week promos. You see his intentions now as he turns on his Blackpool Combat Club teammate after Claudio hits him, puts the plastic bag over his head. I and Jess said this is for Justin Roberts after all those years ago when Danielson choked out Roberts with a necktie. But in jest, I meant that. They finally took the plastic bag off. Danielson was rushed out of the ring with an oxygen mask. We'll find out more about him on Wednesday, I'm sure. But the Blackpool Combat Club is not standing in good favor with the AEW fans right now.
Wow.
Big time moment.
Wow.
Big time moment.
Speaking of big time moments, I forgot about a match that I absolutely have to talk about.
For sure, man.
So last year at Bridge City Slam 5, the match that stole the show was a grudge match between friend of the show, Jared Thumb, and future guest of the show, spoiler alert, Damian Saint. Grudge match number 2 at Bridge City Slam, and this did not disappoint. I did not post the picture that is my favorite that I took just because of the blood involved, but Damian Saint, I didn't see, it was on the other side of the ring. I didn't see what hit him, but he was just covered throughout the whole match. It happened early. But these two went to war. There were tables. There were chairs. There were ladders, garbage cans, everything you can imagine. The kitchen sink did not get involved, though. But these two put on arguably the match of the night.
Okay.
And it was just a thrill to witness. Up front, I got a couple of good pictures. One where there's a table set up in the corner, and I got it just as Saint moved out of the way as Jared's diving into the table.
Oh, geez.
I've got a picture of, off the top of my head, I don't remember, and I posted some of these to our Facebook page, but one of them getting side slammed into a chair, into an open chair. This was brutal, and it did not disappoint. And I kudos to both of them for putting on a hell of a show and entertaining the fans in what is probably my favorite match of the night. My favorite moment is still going to be JT the Boogeyman.
I bet. That's how ironic. We're in two different states at two different shows, and I think we were both treated to a great grudge match. It sounds like you had one there between Damian Saint and Jared Thumb. But the grudge match of all grudge matches in AEW closed out the show in a lights out unsanctioned cage match. And I want to give props to Hangman Page and Swerve here. They tried something that I'd never seen before in a cage match. And the action started as the cage was lowering, and Swerve was trying to hold Hangman in place to have the cage take him out.
Oh,
it was a pretty cool twist. Like, I haven't seen this before. Two guys fighting as the cage goes down and having a guy held to hopefully get the cage, take him out. Obviously, Hangman gets out of the way, but it kind of showed you the intensity, what these guys were going to bring to the table in this battle. As that is happening, the pre-match was the cage is coming down. There's tables inside the ring. There's a big toolbox full of stuff we don't know. There's chairs. There's a cinder block of all things in the ring. These guys, you wonder how they're going to push the envelope, considering in one of their matches, I believe Swerve Was it Hangman that drank Swerve's blood or Swerve that drank Hangman's blood?
It was Hangman that drank Swerve's.
There you go. Like, how are they going to push the envelope here? They did. They broke through that barrier and found something else to do. A brutal match. There was a Swerve stomp through a table on Hangman Page. Hangman.
You got to talk about what you sent me earlier.
We're getting there. We're getting there. Swerve was stapled several times on the chest with a staple gun. Hangman Page was in return stapled all over his body, had a picture stapled to his cheek. Swerve ripped the picture off. I thought, Swerve gave Hangman a vertebraker onto the cement brick. I mean, moans and groans. The crowd eating it up the whole night. The end comes. I don't know if you're ready for this. Hangman pulls Swerve's grill off his teeth. I'm not kidding you. Hangman pulls out a syringe. And you know how the cap on the syringe is? The doctor will put that cap in his mouth and have it in his mouth. Hangman puts the cap of the syringe in his mouth, opens up Swerve's mouth, and shows the needle in to what you believe is supposed to be Novocaine, okay? It looked like he was trying to push it through his skin.
Oh.
And then delivers an unprotected chair shot that echoed through the Now Arena.
Holy shit.
Ref stops the match. Hangman is your winner via stoppage.
Wow.
And the crowd was in awe. Like, they couldn't believe the level of brutality that those two men went to previously, only to have the door knocked down and kicked in this time as they up the ante in this lights out unsanctioned cage match.
How do you top that? Where does this feud go that you can do more than what they've already done?
I don't know. They had, as a wrestling fan, they've got to keep Swerve off TV for a couple weeks. I mean, the punishment that he took, taking that chair shot after the shot of Novocaine inside the mouth, like inside down in his gums. It was crazy, dude. It was absolutely nuts. And that's not usually my cup of tea when they go to those extremes. But man, it was part of the story and it delivered tenfold. It was shocking. And that's what you want out of a grudge match, a blood feud in wrestling, is like, how shocking can it get? And these guys absolutely delivered. I can't put over Hangman Page and Swerve enough. Crowd was definitely behind Swerve in this match. It was definitely Swerve's house, but Hangman kicked down the door and literally and figuratively knocked Swerve's head off with that unprotected chair shot.
Ooh.
Even worse than the one that Darby Allin gave Jack Perry in Blood and Guts. Even worse than that.
Wow.
It was amazing, dude. Utterly amazing.
I'm going to have to find a way to go back and watch this because it sounds like...
I know. I want to watch it so bad. I've been replaying it in my head over the past almost 24 hours now. They upped the ante, dude. It was an amazing show. The best all out that I've been to. I've been to 21, 22, and then last night's 24. The best all out I've been to, period.
And that's saying something because those are some good shows.
It is. The show was great. I want to give a quick shout out to Willow Nightingale and Chris Statlander for their Chicago street fight. And here's why. They had to follow Pac and Ospreay last night. Okay. crowd exhausted from the match. And dude, they went out there and went 0 to 60 like that and didn't stop. It was a great street fight that those two ladies put on. Props to Willow Nightingale and Chris Statlander for their match. Unbelievable.
Fantastic. Since we're giving shout outs before I talk about my last match and moment that I want to talk about, I want to give a shout out. I know he popped in here earlier, Austin Bayless. If you are still listening, thank you so much for putting together Bridge City Slam. It did not disappoint. And if you haven't been to a Central Empire Wrestling show and you're watching or listening to us, make your way out there when they have their next show. It is well worth it. Austin Bayless puts together a hell of a show every time. It does not disappoint. Main event at at Bridge City was Rory Fox taking on the real one, Enzo Amore. Rory came out in purple, and the line of the night goes to Enzo, said, "I do purple better than you, two times better than you," making reference to his two-time cruiserweight championship in WWE.
Yep, that cruiserweight belt was a purple strap. Yep.
It really was. That made me pop. Rory, of course, retains the title through a low blow behind the ref's back. And Storm Thomas, who has been he is a mainstay in Central Empire Wrestling. He was there in an administrative role. He comes out and he looks at Rory. Rory gets taken out. I don't remember by who. I don't think it was Storm. I think it was Enzo after the match.
Yep.
But Rory gets taken out, and Storm Thomas, who is already furious that the match ended the way it did, come on out. Took a minute, but the man who won the Battle Royal and the right to face the champion for the title at any time, our good friend, Jared Thumb. Oh my. He came out in a very short but eventful match. We have new Central Empire Wrestling Champion Jared Thumb. Very, very great waiter in the night here. Storm hit him with a spine buster. Thank you, Jared. He's tuned in. Yes, Storm hit him with a spine buster. It's been a long weekend, so my memory's a little shot. But
hey, I'm
Jared
sure it's been a long week.
out.
I'm sure it's been a long weekend for the champ. Hey, awesome to see friends of the program becoming champions.
Yes,
we saw it with Eric Esnight last night. We've seen it with Jared Thumb in Central Empire Wrestling, and dude, it's awesome. It's awesome to see guys that have come onto the show who we've hit it off with, who are great to talk to, who we've developed friendships with, going out there and seizing their big moment. It's so cool to see as a fan. So I just wanted to give props to Eric Esnight and to Jared Thumb for winning respective championships last night on the shows they were on. Awesome to be friends of the show and to see them winning. It feels good. It's cool.
And to be a part of that moment with them, not like necessarily sharing the ring, but to be there to be a part of that moment.
Right.
It means a lot to me because of the friendship that I've grown with people like Eric Esnight, people like Jared Thumb, JT Energy. It means a lot to be a part of these moments with them as a fan, because it's just so much fun to see your friends having fun and being successful in what they do.
Absolutely. It's like a full circle moment. It's cool. It's cool to be a part of that moment, to be there in the crowd when they're achieving something that they've worked for, becoming at the top of their game. And you were there last night. I've read the reports. 800 people at Bridge City Slam. Congratulations to them. Great job by Austin Bayless. Central Empire's in great hands. Austin Bayless loves wrestling, and sounds like he put on a good show. 800 people there. What a night, and you got to be a part of it. How cool is that?
It was amazing. And on a final note, this show definitely had a big show feel. You go to an indie show and, the building, the lights are all on, it's They're smaller venues, so you don't really see a spotlighted or a highlighted ring. With Central Empire and Bridge City Slam, the lights go out and the spotlights are just focused on the ring.
Uh-huh.
And it just has this feel that is bigger than what you get at a normal indie show. And I just love that aspect of it. It did make it a little hard to take pictures coming down the walkway because the lighting made them blurry as there was movement. But you saw some of what I took there when they were in the ring.
Go ahead, throw it up there again. Throw that picture up there again. I know you want to.
This one?
Yes, that one, of course. That's a great pick, man. That's a good job.
JT, thank you for that moment. I appreciate you've given me that moment in the ring. Jared, thank you for your big moment and congratulations on winning that championship. That is going to do it for tonight's episode of Card Subject to Change. We'll be coming back in the studio to record the kickout for this week. So stay tuned. Stay tuned for that coming about midweek. And we'll talk about what's coming next on Card Subject to Change on the kickout. So you got to tune in for that. For my tag team partner, Never Wrong Nick Bull, I am the Wizard CZ. This has been Card Subject to Change, the podcast by the fan for the fan. And as always, we are powered by Lopez Pizza, built by Durham Remodeling, colored by Ryan Allison Tattoo, and protected by Jared Zook of Country Financial. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you next time on Card Subject to Change.